was the things we had to do was the soils were getting compacted, so that had to be dealt with. The acidity was probably even getting worse than it was. It was a big problem. So, but that one thing complements another. Like the more can get worse or get better, and when you get to the stage where we've got now, the soil biology does the aerating for us. We don't have to get the rollers out or the agro plough out or anything now. It's all history. That was a good transition thing. Good to use that, and good to use the lime and the dolomite and all that. But that was all transitional.
The Biological Farming Roundtable podcast helps farmers explore innovative, low-input, regenerative and profitable farming systems. The Biological Farming Roundtable is sponsored by Nutrisoil, an award-winning biological liquid fertiliser made from a big worm farm. Nutrisoil's purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food. My name is Nakala. I work at Nutrisoil. I envisage a future where farmers are rewarded for producing nutrient-rich foods and consumers have this easily available to them. Welcome to today's episode, where we dive into the journey of a farmer who has transformed not just his land, but his entire approach to farming. My guest today is Don Jarvis, an organic dairy farmer from northeast Victoria. But Don hasn't always been organic. Like many farmers, he once followed conventional methods until his soils started failing him and the milk market took a downturn. Faced with a crossroads, Don and his family made a bold choice to shift to organic farming. It wasn't just a business decision, it was a survival strategy and ultimately a path to thriving. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with the wise and insightful Don Jarvis. The reason I wanted to come and speak with you, Don, is because at any soil event that you are at, and there's a soil health competition, you always win. So I was very keen to come out and find out what is behind this winning soils. How do you get, all of this diversity in your soil, in your pastures, this beautiful dark aggregation? That's what I really want to talk about today. But firstly, just if you could describe your property to us and what it means to you.
Yeah, okay, Nakala. This property was originally purchased in 1938 by my dad. His father helped him set this property up. This was one big station. The Bringambrong was originally the Bringambrong Run, which went from here right up to Tomgrogan on the New South Wales side of the river, and then it got divided into Lower Bringambrong and Bringambrong. So this a man called Cam Drummond owned this whole area around here, everywhere that you can see, and the Bringambrong station, or Lower Bringambrong station, and then it was cut up around about that 1938 into dairy farm size lots. And my dad originally just had this lot where our house is, about 148 acres. And then over time he purchased more lots, and now we're up to about 840 acres altogether. And it's been a dairy farm virtually since 1938 when he first started. And it's gradually got bigger, and we have beef cattle or dairy beef cattle as well as the dairy cows now. And the river flats are beautiful, black, rich alluvial soil, and then the what we call the forest country, the undulating country off the river flats is a granite base. It's not as good a soil as the river flats, but it's soil you can work with and improve, and then it goes up onto the higher hill country, which is a bit harder again, and you deal with rocks and all sorts of things there. And but that's we're gradually improving that as well.
Okay. You're organic.
Yes.
You weren't always organic. Could you tell me about why the change and when that change happened?
Yes, well, I could see when I sort of first started, I was very trained. Uh, yeah, at school we did ag science and we were taught about all chemicals and everything like that. And that's the way I started farming. And especially on the higher country, I could see the more we cultivated and worked the soil, the harder, and we weren't winning, we were losing. The soils were getting hard. Got into that moron philosophy that you just keep putting more fertiliser on, and that made the soils sort of worse. And we did get production, but things weren't going the way I wanted them to go. And then I used to go down to a annual Easter field day at Jeff Wallace's place at Kagunga, and that introduced me to a different way of farming altogether. And I gradually, I bought one of those Wallace ploughs and started to aerate the country. And the granite country was that hard. The blades used to wear out in no time, and all those sort of things. So we went. Then I did a lot of schools with a lot of American speakers that were brought out to um, teach farmers how to have better soils and grow better food and animals, more healthy animals. Arden Anderson was probably one of the main ones that taught me so much. He was a brilliant teacher, taught the science as well as the practicality of doing things, and just his his reason for coming to Australia and teaching farmers, because the man was a qualified doctor and he had a medical clinic, and just he was an amazing man. But he could see that medicine was failing and agriculture was failing because he grew up on a dairy farm. And his dad, after the Second World War, bought this wonder fertiliser off this company. Actually, it was a byproduct and it was toxic and it virtually killed all his animals. And that taught Arden a big lesson. He said there must be a better way. And his philosophy was if farmers had healthy soil, they would grow healthy plants which produce healthy animals, and then humans eating those healthy plants and animals would be more healthy themselves. And yeah, I agreed with that philosophy. So I was looking at producing healthier soils and how do you do it? And there's a natural way of doing it. And I was sort of gradually got into biological farming. And then in the time when the dairy industry was deregulated, we lost a quarter of our income overnight with that because we had half our milk going to Sydney with a milk quota, and we were getting twice per litre what we were getting from the manufactured side from Murray Goulburn. And at that time there was a little organic factory started up in Corryong, and they were always at me to come and join them because I was sort of halfway there anyway. And not well, I wasn't going to do it while I had this Sydney milk quota, but when I lost that, well, that was the time that I made the change and changed from, being sort of biological, I guess, using some chemical inputs and to an organic system. And that brought my per litre back to about what I was getting before. So it was changing to organic was really a financial thing, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're wasting your time doing it because you'll fail.
You already had built up that
Yeah.
mindset from the Wallace Plough
Yes.
experience and then going and seeing Arden Anderson.
Yeah.
Had you taken over the farm from your dad at that stage, or was he still farming alongside with you?
A bit of both. Um, when I left school, I started working with my dad on just on wages, and he had a share farmer doing the dairy side, and we were sort of doing the beef side. Then in 1971, when I got married, he made the dairy part over to me, and I took the dairy on myself at that stage, and been doing it ever since. And that was 1971, so a long time ago.
Did you love it? Did you love changing from the beef to the dairy? What was?
I wouldn't say I loved it, but I did it. It was when I initially started milking is when one of our share farmers, the guy doing it just suddenly quit, walked off. So had no one to replace him. So me and Dad started to milk the cows. And it was in an old dairy that he'd built in 1938, and old walk-through dairy, and was so primitive. And then in 1973, I built a new dairy, little herringbone dairy.
That's 3 years after you took over, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was time.
yeah. It took time, and so that was a big step forward. But then we got into the stud cows, and they grew a lot bigger than the old cows we used to have, because we started off with a Jersey herd and gradually changed over to Holstein by mating them to Holstein bulls and crossbred cows, and then we bought stud cows as well and bred from them. So the cows ended up far too big for the dairy that I'd built. So then about 25 years ago, we built the new dairy on the end of it. We just extended it and built a whole new milking area. And now we've got still a herringbone, but it's 12-a-side herringbone doubled up with all electronic gear. We've got happy system. It's all computerized and very high tech now. We've just upgraded that. So yeah, it's a never ending expense.
Yeah, always keeping up with
Yeah, it's like a
technology.
black hole. Never fill it.
So you've all this is all you've ever known, this farm. Have you ever worked off farm?
Not really. I did wool classing as a subject at school, and I did a few sheds locally. But then once I started milking, that sort of finished that. But now I've been either working for my dad for a while and then been self-employed ever since. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the change. You were saying that things weren't working when you were using the Moron system.
Mm-hmm.
How did you start transitioning, and what were you using before that, and what's your program through the years to now?
Yeah, well, we were very conventional using superphosphate, and then we were sort of getting into more concentrated fertilizers like DAP, and using a little bit of nitrogen. Never big users of it. So we did soil tests and found the soil very acidic. All the tests were down in the four range. The granite soils were a lot more acidic than the river flats. So we started to use lime, and we kept on using superphosphate and that with it, and then started to do schools with BioAg, and they produced this product that was based on rock phosphate, but it was digested with bacteria instead of sulfuric acid. It had no sulfur content in it, but it was high in phosphorus and calcium. And then we could add some natural gypsum to that mix, and we were putting that out about half a tonne per hectare, and that started to transform our soils, as well as I mentioned the aeration with the old Wallace plough, and then we went on to agro plough and the spiky rollers, but now that's all past, that's all history, because now the bacteria, the biology in the soil do the aeration for us, so that's easy.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
You said that the river flats were not as acidic as the granite, but they were treated the same. Do you think that's because of the biology was able to buffer that system more in those rich river flats?
Oh, well, the river flats, it's an alluvial soil. It's sort of, I guess, over time, it's sort of a sedimentary. The river flats flood most years, and you get a build up there. I used to say a good flood was worth a good fertiliser, sort of.
Yeah,
But
brings it in and yep.
yeah, you always get, sedimentary deposits with a flood. It's there do more damage than good, I suppose, but it does help in some ways. But the river flats still needed work. They still needed. They were a bit tight as well. Yeah, it still needed liming because they might have been in the high 4 range or the very low 5 range, pH wise, whereas the high country was in might be 4.1, 4.2, 3, but now we've got those, they're up in the 6.2 and things like that. So big difference.
So do you put that towards, yes, the liming, but also reducing the synthetics?
Yeah, yeah. It's a combination of, it's not one thing. It's aeration. It's balancing your pH. It's building up your biology. That's a really important thing. Rotational grazing is another great thing that we do extensively with the dairy cows. They have a night rotation and a day rotation, so and even the beef cattle, they might be rotated with about 4 paddocks, go from one to the other, and that's helping too. Yeah.
So you changed from MAP, DAP to this bacterial digested soft rock phosphate.
Yeah.
What else?
Well,
Lime.
yes, we used lime and some dolomite. Then we were using some bought organic type fertilisers once we changed over to the organic system. Then we started processing our dairy effluent in with compost worms. We sort of got that idea from Nutrisoil and thought it was a very good idea. So now we spread the vermicast on parts of our farm. We never have enough to spread it all over the farm, but that is the best fertiliser we've got. And then the liquid part of our effluent system that gets sprayed out with a sprinkler. We move once or twice a day, and that puts good nitrogen out as well on those areas that get sprayed with that. And the vermicast has high nitrogen as well.
So you've got the static pile where you create your vermicast, but that's also connected to your effluent. So you're washing out the dairy, adding straw.
Yeah.
Tell me about that and then how that feeds into the vermicast.
Well, at the end of our dairy, where on the downhill side of the main yard, we've got a concrete pit that you can drive a tractor into or a telehandler. So we put half a bale of cereal straw in that. All the effluent goes in on that straw, and that a large part of the manure, the solid part of the manure, gets mixed in with that straw, and the liquid goes through a baffled wall, and then there's a manure pump in a little sump area there. That's hooked up to a 3-inch main line, which goes to about 5 or 6 paddocks, and we have outlets, hydrants that we change from paddock to paddock, and the sprinkler we move is on the end of a full roll of polypipe, 2-inch polypipe, and so that just it just does a small area every twice a day, and that that's remarkable. That the soil that that uh, gets sprayed onto, that's where the real good soil is. The showstoppers.
We were talking about that earlier. I said, so do you get these soil samples? So when I go to events with Don, they ask to bring a cube of soil. It's normally David Hardwick's Best in Soil competition, and it's just always aggregated and beautiful and dark, and it just wins every time. So I wanted to know if it was on the river flats,
Yes.
but Don was saying no, it's out here where it actually gets this effluent as well as everything else that the rest of the farm get. It specifically it gets this effluent, and that's a little bit of a key to this beautiful soil.
Yeah, it has really good nitrogen on it. Someone made the comment at one of the shows when he thought, oh, there's no worms in your soil. Well, there's a few, but not what he thought should be there. And he didn't understand the principle of worms and nitrogen and that, because no, that wasn't worms. It was no nodules
Oh,
on
okay.
the clover. Didn't have the big. It had, there was some, but not all.
Nice
Not like yes.
pink juicy one.
Yeah, because there's enough nitrogen in the soil, so the bacteria didn't need to make more. It's a natural process. If you put a lot of urea on a paddock and your nitrogen level goes up, especially the ammonia and that type of thing, well, it shuts down the natural nitrogen bacteria.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. The effluent has a similar thing.
Yeah. Balances itself
Yeah.
out. It knows it doesn't need any
Mm.
more. So, Don, you're talking about the vermicast. Are you thinking that it was the best fertilizer on your property? Why do you think that? Tell us about it.
Well, I've got a machine that's a radionic machine, or people call them a electronic scanner. There's another word for it, but I use that extensively for all testing anything, all my inputs, grain, fertilizers, whatever, and testing a paddock with it. I get samples of all different things, different products, and you get a reading with the machine, and nothing can beat the vermicast. It's probably twice as high a reading as other things. Yeah. I think it's even higher than the Nutrisoil. I think it beats everything. It's just amazing.
Well, if you think in nature what that vermicast is, it's just the worm leaving a track of this beautiful balanced microbial mix and fertilizer and all of these other metabolites. Along with all of the slime on the side of the wall that is on the outside of the worm.
That's right.
Wow, we share the same view there. So with your effluent pond, you actually pull the solids out of that and put it into the worm farm.
Yes, yeah, once a week, maybe once every 10 days. The whole pit's evacuated with a big grapple bucket on a telehandler and put into a windrow. And that's virtually it. We let the worms do the rest. It might get turned over once or twice, and it's easy. Yeah, and if weeds grow on it, that doesn't matter. Either the cows will come and eat them, or we just turn it over and the worms eat them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's feed for the worms, isn't it? And it's photosynthesizing into the...
Yeah, so it's about this time of year when we do it, when it's dry, probably usually in February. We'd probably put about half our castings out. We try and let the worms get on all the fresher part of it, and the staler part, it might be 2-year-old by that stage, and we put that out with a big spreader.
Belt spreader. A belt spreader.
No, it's a proper manure spreader. It's got two vertical spinners with augers sort of on them at the back, and it's got a big pusher on the floor, and it just pushes the whole load backwards into the spinners, and yeah, you can spread it very thick. It's a bit harder to spread it really fine, but you're putting it probably half a tonne per hectare out or more. Yeah.
Okay. So you're using the soft rock phosphate, the lime, the gypsum, the vermicast, the effluent. What other practices?
Well, now I find now we've got our acidity pretty good. We don't really need the lime and gypsum anymore, and even the bioag phos we haven't used that for a long time either. We just use a combination of liquid fertilisers, and we can, if we need some traces, we can put trace elements into that in a liquid form as well. We usually make up a mix of about 5 products, including molasses, which works beautiful with it. Yeah.
How is it like something like a Towong fert? What are you using to put it out with, or is it just how do you mix it all together?
Yeah, I'll get a contractor to do it. He's got just a tow, a big tank on wheels with a rooster tail on the back with five jets on the back. So it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of sediment in it or whatever. It just spreads it out. It hasn't got to be perfect like a normal spray. So we use that TM product.
Plant extract, the TM plant extract?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then convert product, the plant food product that I have, the Nutrisoil, that's one of the base ones. Then molasses, put out about 3 litres of molasses mixed up per hectare. And yeah, that's about it.
So you've got a plant extract, the worm liquid. What's the convert biological food made from?
Yeah, it's a bit of a secret, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I wondered whether I've heard of people just using Convert, one of the original organic dairy farmers out of Ardlethan always got onto this Convert and always saying how good it was. And so at Henty Field Day, I got a little sample off them, and I put it with all the other things. It had a high reading on my machine just by itself, but then I combined it with all the other products I'm using, and it jumped the total vitality up a lot.
+1 = 5.
Yes, they all build. Every product I use builds on the other ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have tried products that do nothing, so we don't use them. Yeah. But all those products all complement one another.
So then adding to that, you've got your molasses. How do you know you need trace elements? Is it using the radionics machine? Or
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the radionics machine. I'm so interested.
You're going to lose a lot of people there.
No, look, I really, we've had so many conversations about this. I really share the same belief that nature is made of energy. And that if you can tune into that energy, then you can make some really good decisions. And I know it's just one tool that you use, and there's a lot of research behind it on how to use it and science behind it on how to use it. But tell us what it is and how you use it.
Yeah, well, radionics is based on electromagnetic energy, and there's an electromagnetic grid right around the Earth that's been there since creation, and unfortunately that is getting weaker as time goes on, but it's still effective, but it's still there. Now, the radionic machine is a machine that works on frequencies. Those frequencies can key into that electromagnetic grid. So the machine itself has got frequency dials, and people far smarter than me have worked out what whatever you want to test, what the frequency for that test is. It's virtually unlimited what you can test or do with this machine. It's quite incredible, and it. So I test all my. If I buy grain, I will test that grain to see if it's got any impurities in it, any poisons, toxins. I can test the protein level with it. I can test the energy level, which is the main thing, especially for dairy cows. You want high energy grain, so I can easily test that. And it's the same with all the fertilisers I put out, and then I can test my. Instead of doing a conventional soil test, I use a machine on a sample of that paddock, whether it's an ordinary type of it's just a dirt soil test, or I can take a photo of it that stretches a few people's minds, but take a photo of the paddock and just test that. And with a Polaroid camera, you've got the positive and negative in the photo, and you can, that gives the same reading. I've checked, I've done both ways, and you get the same reading with it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the electromagnetic field, um, is that similar to all of the, I guess, EMFs that are around, or how is it similar, this electromagnetic field, to technology that we use today?
Yes, I guess it would be used in some areas. It's certainly homeopathics are related. It's virtually tuning in on the same principles. Um, yes, I think in science people go into that field quite a bit. Certainly in the ancient world, people they used it a lot. It was very advanced, but that that's been lost. That knowledge has been lost, but it's been picked up again in some ways. Yeah, this.
Do you think it's because there's more powerful things that we have made, so these more subtle things we've left behind?
Yes, we have a lot of very wealthy companies that make conventional fertilisers, and they obviously don't support the alternatives. Yeah, the same with medicines and everything. Yeah.
But studying biology, everything is in parts per trillion, like the amounts.
That's right.
If you try and test amino acids in a worm liquid, you're talking about 0.0005%.
Yeah.
And the testing that we can get done as humans, we don't have that detectable level. So I'm always dubious of people that don't believe in this subtle energy,
Yeah, the
because
subtle energy,
they don't understand that's how nature works.
Yeah. Well, people very familiar with a lot of energies like radio, TV,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
microwave ovens. They're the little fine ones, but these subtle energies are the ones right down the bottom of the scale, the big loopy ones. They call them subtle energies, and that's where this electromagnetic fields are. Yeah.
And we were having a lovely conversation just earlier. Again, there's so much resistance to this, and one of the resistance is big pharma or big fertilizer companies that are saying no, that's not right. This shouldn't be sold, like you said, back in the early 1900s. Were you saying?
Yes.
Yeah, they actually banned using the radionics machine.
Yeah, for human medicine in the US they did. It's still banned there today.
Yeah, right. Interesting. But the conversation we were having was also about Christianity.
Yeah.
So we both share a Christian faith, and I have often struggled with working with these energy type of fields because it is promoted as against Christian faith, and I've always thought, but God gave us this energy.
Yeah, it's
I
just
don't
part
quite
of his
understand this
creation.
barrier.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you. But
yeah.
you so beautifully put
Mm.
that you don't make that your God.
Oh no, you mustn't. No,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
Use it as a tool.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah.
It's a tool.
Yeah, and that's how you use it on your farm as a
Mm.
tool. You obviously use your visualization,
Yeah, yeah,
and the health of your cattle,
yeah, yeah.
all sorts of things to make
Mm.
decisions. And in
Mm.
the earlier days, soil tests and tissue tests, you would have,
Mm.
yeah, known where you were at. Yeah,
What's that?
you would have known where you were at with a soil test and a tissue test.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've compared tests. Will I do with my radionic machine with lab tests on soil? Like
yeah,
you can get similar results. Yeah,
calibrate it.
yeah.
So, I'm very interested also in the challenges that you may have experienced from changing from the conventional system with your soil and pastures and your animals. So, let's
Mhm.
talk about your soil first. Um, was there a drop in fertility at all with that transition?
Um, I'd say yes and no. The way to people say, well, just try a little bit and have a bit of a dabble to start with, but that's not the way to go. You're going to lose out that way because you've got to hit it hard initially
Yeah, okay.
with biology. It's a transformation from a chemical system to a biological system, and they're not really compatible. The more heavily you go with chemicals, the more you destroy the biology in the soil. That's that's proven fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially with products like urea. Urea's a really bad one. It just shuts down all the natural producing bacteria uh, that's in your soil. The free living bacteria, the ones that make the nodules on the legume roots and all that, just shuts it down.
What I have seen, I'll just add to that because we've done a lot of testing around that as well.
Mm.
What happens if you add urea to Nutrisoil and the microbes in the Nutrisoil? I'd wondered. The microbe population skyrockets, but the diversity plummets.
Yes.
So that there's bacteria that you've only got a certain small amount of bacteria that take over, and they're your disease causing bacteria because there's no balance of all the other bacteria around keeping everyone in check. Yeah, and I've seen it under the microscope with Phil Lee as well. He has this amazing microscope, and any soil types that had the urea application compared to the biological application,
Yeah.
the microbes were going crazy. They were moving around. The bacteria was really just in a frenzy, Nelly.
Yes. Yeah.
And then more calm in the biological fertilizers.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's just so amazing that
Yeah.
people aren't putting two and two together.
Yeah. You've
Yeah,
got to get a good balance between bacteria and fungi too. And it's great if you can get that mycorrhizal fungi growing, and it's an amazing organism. I think it's supposed to be the biggest um, thing that grows in the world. Like it just spreads. It can spread for kilometres.
if you could imagine how much is under our feet.
Yeah, yeah,
Like visually think of it just all winding around this farm. It must be in just huge abundance. Yeah, yeah.
that's
Mm,
right.
mm. Yeah, so you were talking about that transition. Yeah,
Yeah, so it was the things we had to do was the soils were getting compacted, so that had to be dealt with. The acidity was probably even getting worse than it was. It was a big problem. So, but that one thing complements another. Like the more can get worse or get better, and when you get to the stage where we've got now, the soil biology does the aerating for us. We don't have to get the rollers out or the agro plough out or anything now. That's all It's all history. That was a good transition thing. Good to use that, and good to use the lime and the dolomite and all that. But that was all transitional.
So do you think it was using the lime and the dolomite and the aeration was creating the home, and then adding the biology, you just started building it? Like,
Yeah, it all complements one another.
yeah,
But it works a lot quicker if you're adding biology too,
yeah,
like just with the Nutrisoil. I mean,
yeah.
that's a fantastic product. It's
Yeah.
got so much
Thank you.
life in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And the vermicast that you're using.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And even a thing like molasses that I use when we put out a spray, that's a bug food. And that gives you a big stimulus. Your soil life a big stimulus because they love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much literage per hectare of molasses goes in the mix?
About 3 litres. It's not the easiest stuff to work with. You've
Do
got
you
to,
warm it up first?
yeah, you've got to mix it with hot water and get that into the tank, and yeah, you've got to keep peace with the spraying contractor.
Oh, yes.
Don't want to get him too tied down with,
Yeah.
because he's usually doing this in the colder weather too. And
Yes.
yeah, so 3 litres, he's okay with that,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to ask him to do 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did see a bit of a transition drop until those microbes really kicked into gear. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How long do you think that took?
Oh,
What a difficult question.
you're probably your first 3 years, sort of a transition period, but then every year after that it gets better and easier. But we didn't probably go hard enough to start with. You can't do everything at once, that's for sure. But you should be doing as much as you can. Yeah.
So that was the soil. What about managing your pastures? So before you had a tool called a herbicide. How do you manage your pastures for any, I guess, plants that aren't really preferred?
Yeah, we use mulches a lot. I've got 3 mulches actually.
Important tool for you.
Yeah, but we got one that you could use. It goes from side to side, and then it'll go up to a vertical position, so we can even mulch blackberries along our fences with it. Yeah, that sort of thing. It's a good tool. Then we've got a wider one. It will go side to side a little bit. It's a very heavy duty machine. It's very quite strong. And then we did have a little side mounted one that has got a long arm and sort of like you see working along the roads and that sort of thing. But it's very slow, and it's an oil driven drive on the rotor. So we don't use that much now, but we've still got it.
Yeah, okay.
You can do over fences with it, and it's an amazing little machine, but it's so slow and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you probably use that for the fences that might have blackberries on them.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's very difficult mounting it on the tractor, and it's it's a good machine, but it's a bit frustrating at times.
And grazing management, did you change any of your grazing management when you went organic?
Yes.
Or did you realise the
we
absolute
were
importance of it?
we were already doing some rotational grazing, which was a good practice, but now we're doing that very much. We've got nearly we go close to a 21 day rotation in the day area and also in the night area now.
Okay.
Some paddocks might get grazed two nights, or one big area near the river. But we often get 4 days grazing on that area, and then it gets the sort of 3 week spell. It's good if you can keep that up. Yeah, and that helps a lot. But in the last probably 3-4 years, we've started to do work with a renovator called a soil key, and that's we're sowing multi-species varieties there, where summer mix on our irrigation area has about 7 species, including Shiroi millet and sorghum and some forage rape, and as well as white and red clover and chicory. That's a wonder plant. And then the winter mix, we have even more species in that, with cereals, herbs, clovers and grasses. Yeah.
How long have you been doing the multi-species?
About 4 years.
Yeah, okay. And did you see another jump in soil health with the multi-species, or?
I would say when it's depending on the rainfall, if you can clip the rainfall just as you're sowing, that's a great boost, and then you get good follow-up rounds. Last autumn was a bit of a disaster, but we did harvest it and got some silage, probably the worst silage year we've had on our own farm, but then got some good spring rains after that, and then it took off, we got some good grazing off it. So.
Farming, everything's rain related, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it's good. The irrigation's good because we've got about 30 hectares of flood irrigation, and then we've got a pivot that pumps from a recycle dam from our flood irrigation, and we pump out of that with a small pivot that does about 10 hectares. That's all solar powered, so it's a good system. We get free water and free power.
Beautiful. Yeah, okay. Your animal health.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage, things like mastitis and
Well, the biggest part organically is prevention. That's what you've got to look at. Have your dairy plant top notch. Get it annual test. Get it all checked out. We introduced the ADF milking machine milking system, which has done wonders for the cell count levels. When before we put that in, we were getting cell counts up in the 400,000 range. Now we're around 100,000.
Could you explain this cell count?
Yes, it's somatic cell count. It's sort of like little white clotty things that are in the milk. You can't really see them, but they milk quality. The lower that cell count gets, the better quality the milk is, basically. And we herd test every month, 12 months of the year. Every cow gets tested for that somatic cell count, and some cows down into, especially young cows, and they're in the single figures. A cell count of about 8 or 9, or that's was unheard of years ago. But basically, if we can maintain our cell count under 100,000, we're pretty happy.
Wow, that's a big difference, the young cow and what you're trying to maintain.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that lower is much better.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
if it's higher, it's an indication that something's going wrong.
Yeah, if a cow gets mastitis, like another infection, that cell count might go up into the millions. Yeah, it gets really high.
So you're talking, when you say prevention, your soil health, pasture health.
Yeah, but healthy soil produces healthy plants, produces healthy cows. And that's good. But this ADF system, it works so that when the caps come off, there's iodine injected onto each teat as the caps are coming off. So that's an automatic. We don't have to teat spray or flush or whatever individually. It's automatically done, and then the teat cups are back flushed with a solution with hydrogen peroxide in it, and that cleans the cups out between each cow being milked, so there's no spread of mastitis bugs with the machines. And then it has air blows through it to clean the cups out. So it has the iodine on them, and then it has this hydrogen peroxide solution, with water, and then it's air blasted. So you've got those two elements with this ADF system. It's good.
Yeah, okay. Did you see a change in, like a drop in mastitis levels or grass tetany or anything when your soil health improved with that change?
Yes, the soil health. It's yeah, it's made a huge difference. And the plant health, the multi-species is good because you're not just got a monoculture of ryegrass. You've got balance of herbs, cereals, legumes. But yeah, that all makes a difference. But I was going to say, with the cow's health and mastitis wise, just getting back to that for a moment, um, with the herd test, then we isolate the milk from the real high testing cows that have high cell counts. So they're milked into a test bucket. That milk doesn't get mixed with the milk we sell, and that's fed to calves. Because we calve all the year round, we're feeding calves all the year round, so that milk gets given to the calves.
I want to talk about the calving all year round as well, but that's not a concern that you're giving that milk to the calves. They're young and healthy enough to manage that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We had there's a product called Milo. It's actually organically registered, but any dairy farmer can use it. It's got a lot of real healthy stuff in it that the calves really seem to do well on it. It's good. Uh, a cow, yeah, the cows that have a real high silk count, that they end up going to the butcher. Yeah, we cull fairly heavy, because we keep all our heifer calves we keep, and they're probably 80% of them are pure Holstein. We do made a few of our cows we know where to breed from, with a beef bull, and they're just kept, whether they're heifers or bull calves, is kept for their meat value. And we monitor that cell count really well. We don't, obviously being organic, we can't use dry cow or antibiotics when we treat, if they do get mastitis, but we use other products. You can use a peppermint type ointment, uh, which we massage into the udder. That's an anti-inflammatory. And then we use, if a cow's really bad, we'll use an ozone machine, the gas from that. It's a machine that just sucks in air, which has oxygen in it, which is O2. Ozone is O3, so it converts CO2 to O3, and that we've found is just as good as any antibiotic.
Wow.
It's an amazing thing. And then those cows would be, if we're going to keep them, when they dried off, they just get ozone added to each quarter. Yeah, just after they're milked, you just do the same, cleanse the teats the same as you would if you're using an antibiotic. Just blow the ozone gas in. You do it for about 10 seconds or something like that. Just don't blow the udder up any more than it was with the milk in it.
Yeah. Okay. So if their cell count is really high, and they may potentially be a cow that is just susceptible to, getting mastitis or something, they're culled, and then you've not culled, so they're sold. They're sold. Yeah.
Yeah, they usually, if a cow's bad and they're not responding to treatment, like ozone won't cure every case, just as antibiotics won't
Exactly.
cure every case. The two are about compatible. A good antibiotic is about as effective as the ozone machine, but once you buy the ozone machine, well, it's there forever, so it's a lot cheaper than antibiotics. Yeah. But culling is the last resort, because even if a cow calving gets, like, she's got a uterus infection or something, and she's got to have long acting antibiotics, that cow is quarantined. soon as the antibiotics are out of the system, then she's chopping. She never comes back into the herd.
Yeah. So, but you do have a non-organic part to your farm as well. Is that only for the bull calves or?
Yeah, well, we've now taken all our young cattle out of the organic system. We're doing that for economic reasons. So now cows can't be sold for meat for organic purpose, but they only have to be quarantined for 6 months from conventional to organic status. So when we mate our females, they go into the organic system. So they got 9 months or more under organic conditions before they calve and come into the herd.
Okay.
Yeah, and that means that some of our areas where blackberries were getting a bad problem, and we spot spray those areas now where the non-organic cattle are.
Yeah. Going back to the calving all year round and how the calves are transitioned. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, well, we rear all our calves, males and females. If we were calving seasonally, either say in 2 lots, spring calving, autumn calving, we couldn't manage all the calves. It would be too many at once. So doing it as we do it, we can sort of cope with rearing all our calves. And we've always got about, 50 odd calves on the go all the year round. Yeah, it's in some ways it's not ideal, but we cope with it, and we make up it's a wonderful product actually. It was from when I was going to the field days at Jeff Wallace's place many years ago. There was this lady, they used to call her the grey-haired lady. She was a wonderful lady, and she had this formula for stock minerals, and she said you should have this available to every animal all the time, 12 months of the year. So I've done that, and her mix was 3/4 dolomite, and then the other quarter was divided. A third of the other quarter was powdered sulphur, and a third was copper sulphate, and the other third was powdered seaweed. So we've maintained that, but then we've added some other products to that. We had a diatomaceous earth. We put about the same amount of that in as we do the copper sulphate. That's a finely ground coral rock. It's used in ladies' cosmetics. It's that fine, but under a microscope, all the little particles are really jagged. So if they contact a worm in the stomach, they'll cut it, slit it, and kill it. So it's a worm control. And we also add it to our grain when we put in grain in the silos, and it'll do the same to weevils. It'll kill the weevils. And it's very high silica, so that the residue of that goes in with the grain when we mill it, and the cows are getting that as well. So they're getting that. And then we add that to this ad lib stock mineral that all cattle have access to 12 months of the year. And it just keeps them healthy. And the copper sulphate deals with any liver fluke.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, so we have lagoons where the snails we see them, but we have no liver fluke problem.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, I have to wrap this up because I've really enjoyed this conversation, Don. But there's 4 things I want to know.
Okay.
Number 1, are you making more profit as an organic dairy farm?
Oh, probably not.
No.
We make profit, but we're putting a lot of the profit back into the farm. We're getting our fences in real good order. We used to have electric fences everywhere, and the blackberries beat us, and now we just pull the whole lot out, mulch it right down into the ground, and then put up a real good, strong all-purpose fence, and blackberries grow back, well, doesn't really matter. And yeah, we've done up our laneways with proper road surface material. Now that's stopped all the foot problems we're getting. Very little foot rot and foot abscess and things now. Yeah, things like that. And we bought some decent machinery and all that sort of stuff. And
Just moving the money around, isn't it?
yeah.
Are you happier or sadder?
Oh, definitely happier.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm doing something I'm in harmony. It's a harmony thing, it's yeah, I wasn't happy. I hate putting poisons out on the ground and things like that. It's just working with God's creation rather than abusing it.
Oh, how beautiful. Is being organic more or less work?
Oh, it can be both. Once you get it all working in a lot of areas, it's a lot less work because you're not doing a lot of things you did before. It's the bugs in the ground are doing a lot of the work for you. They're the biggest workers on the farm. So, but in other areas, there's still, things get a bit fiddly and, we're still cutting a few weeds with the hoe and things like that you wouldn't be probably doing in conventional.
Well, I imagine you'd be out in the spray rig more, wouldn't you, in the conventional?
So in the side by side, always have a hoe in the back.
Yep. Okay. And Denise has just walked in, so I don't know. I'm going to ask you a really curly question.
She's hiding.
If someone offered you twice the value of your farm, would you take it or would you stay? Sorry, Denise.
No, at the moment, I'd stay.
You'd stay at the moment.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that in 10 years' time. Yeah, that's a question I can't. At the moment, no. No. I know the person across the road wants to buy it. But no, he's not getting it.
Beautiful. Well, I think this is just a wonderful way to farm, and it really aligns with your values and your spiritual beliefs. So I can just see how happy you are and how well you look. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Lovely to talk to you.
Okay, thanks, Nakala.
Please follow the Biological Farming Roundtable podcast. Share it with your friends and networks. I'm Nakala Maddock and I work at Nutrisoil, a liquid biological fertiliser made from a big worm farm whose purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food.